House in Baltimore, and from one side of the pond to the other as the Ravens head to Wembley and to London this week, along with a bunch of us, 2-0 this week. I want to bring in a old friend of ours who does the media thing out on the West Coast now at Los Angeles, but he is a Baltimorean, a Pikesville native, and longtime with Yahoo Sports, now the founder of the Postgame. And if you saw the Jim Brown interview a couple weeks ago, it popped up with his name on it. We welcome Ravens fan and sometimes London tourist David Katz back onto the program. He is Katzmandu out on Twitter as well as at thepostgame.com. Katz, what's the word, man? I mean, Ravens are on the road here. You and I usually find each other in parking lots from Oakland to Miami to Dallas to Kansas City and Denver. And you and I, we've had a beer in probably 15 different NFL parking lots, right?
At least at this point. I'm looking forward to switching out the parking lot for a pub this time.
Well, we're going to do that. And, you know, this whole London thing's, it's interesting for the Ravens. I think it's interesting for the fans. We don't know what to make of the whole thing. A lot of us are going over there. I'm throwing a party on Saturday that I hope you and everybody else comes to down there at the Fox at XL beginning at 11 a.m. in the Docklands. That is the Royal Victoria subway stop, tube stop. So we'll tell everybody about that. But, you know, this is a fresh group, right? 2-0. Defense taking the ball away. Joe playing responsibly. Joe playing and playing healthfully. But this Yonda thing is going to put a little crinkle in the plans here over the next couple of weeks, I'm sure.
You know, they like to talk about depth, and I think the depth of this team is going to be challenged. We seem to be losing key guys across the board. Is this 15 people on IR this far this year?
It's
My
outrageous.
number could be off by one or two, but it's something like that. And this is going to be a great challenge for the coaching staff and the team, especially a team that is trying to run the ball and control the offense by controlling the clock a lot more, give the defense a little bit of a rest so they can fly around and be the ball hawks that they've already proven that they are this year. You're losing arguably the best lineman and certainly the best interior lineman in football. And that is not easy. You cannot replace him, and it's going to be a real challenge to the entire team.
Well, we're headed off at 2-0, and I will say this all week long, and I'll tell anybody on the trip, man, they've checked the boxes, right? I mean, whether it was Flacco's situation, whether it was them not drafting better offensive players and more helpful offensive players, to the availability of Macklin, to the availability of Austin Howard, to, I guess, now the availability of Bergstrom, who's going to play right guard at this point. You know, they've had some good fortune along with some bad fortune, but all that being said, they're 2-0, and they're going to London, and they're playing a Jaguars team that there's no reason they can't win and come back at 3-0 and face the Steelers here in a week and a half. You know, this is as good as it gets when you're 2-0 right now.
You know, these are the weeks we've lost in the past. I mean, we've suffered some really bad defeats to a team like the Jaguars years and years ago, and it was always because they seemed to be looking past them to the next game, and obviously the next game, the home game against the Steelers, is one of the biggest games of the year. I think the fact that this is London, that this is a little different routine for the team, will keep them focused, even though I know that traveling and having family around in a different venue can be a distraction, but I think it will be a welcome distraction from the monotony of just playing a Jaguars team in Jacksonville. I think they're going to get up for the game. I think a national audience, albeit on Yahoo, will be exciting. And, you know, I have to throw in a plug for my former employer. And I think it'll be an exciting time for the fans. Everyone's going to be focused on this. It'll be something different. And I can't wait for my doubleheader of going across the pond to the game and then flying back to be in Baltimore for the Steeler game, despite the fact that I live in Los Angeles.
So nice. All right. David Katz is here for the post game. You can follow him at Katzmandu. You know, let's start with London and now work back into the game. We can certainly talk about the victory over the Browns and what to expect a little bit from the Jaguars this coming week. But for the fans going over, this is truly a treat. It's something everyone had circled on their calendar for years to do and to be a part of. And, you know, I guess now that it's here and it's upon us, and there's been, you know, all sorts of, you know, incidents in subways in London and all over the world, and terrorism and the way our country's run and the way their countries are run and all that. But to go over for 5 days and to participate in this, in some sort of way where walking Abbey Road or eating fish and chips or taking the gondola ride that we're doing over the River Thames or Big Ben or anything involving the Queen or anything involving the royal family and Wimbledon and history. Going to dig it. If you dig a city, if you like if you like a New York, you like a Chicago, you like a city, a big city, it's a wonderful big city.
You know, as a 22-year-old, I graduated college. I got on a plane. I flew to England. I ended up doing my graduate degree in England outside of London, but only about 45 minutes outside at Cambridge University. So I fell in love with the country in general, the culture, the people. And when it comes to London, to me, even if you don't have a specific plan, you can enjoy the city simply by walking. It is, to me, the greatest walking city in the world. And you
really
just go
in the world. Wow. I mean, I walk cities. I love. It's one of my favorite. I think Paris is pretty cool, but I love any city. I walk. Everywhere we go, people say, hey, man, you're like getting older, you stay thinnish. I'm like, we will walk 10 to 12 miles a day every day for the next week over there just because I want to see more stuff. I want to go down streets I haven't been down and see what's down there. I do wish I had done a rock and roll thing, Cats. I wish there was some sort of official Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd, Beatles thing that, I could go off into the wilderness. I remember when I was there 20 years ago, the girl I was seeing, the Pink Floyd Wall album was recorded in the area where she's from. And that was like, wow, But I know, I've never been to Abbey Road. I've never done any of that stuff. I've barely spent any time at all in London, really. But this last trip, I got around a little bit, and I was like, I don't know how anyone could go there on anything group-led because I can't imagine that 100 people would want to go in 100 different directions, right?
That's exactly right. A lot of cities are either the government city, and they have grand government buildings, or they're the kind of arts culture city, or they're the sporting city, and a lot of different places. I mean, this is New York, D.C., San Fran, kind of all put together. So you have the government, you've got Parliament, Big Ben, all these incredible governmental buildings that have been there for hundreds and hundreds of years. And when you think about the age of this, and you think about how old our country is, and by old I mean young, and you see every building in that place is older than the United States of America. Soak in the history. I mean, there's a couple of things I would recommend. If you go in, there's the Churchill bunkers from World War II, which is an incredible tour, and you kind of go underneath the catacombs and you see how the government operated.
By the way, that's the one thing we did. That's the one, blatantly tourist thing we did when we were there in July, and it was incredible. Like, I can't imagine not going there. Going to London, spending 5 days there, and not doing that would be a shame, I think.
I completely agree, and the ability to just walk out of that and immediately be right around Buckingham Palace and see all of the royal aspect of the city is incredible. The only thing else I will mention, because I think everyone has their own perspective and wants to see different things, and I'm certainly no tour guide, but for me, my favorite museum in London is a free museum right in Trafalgar Square, the National Gallery, home to incredible artwork. My favorite painting in the world, Henri Rousseau's Surpris, is there 2 rooms in when you walk in on the right side. And it's just an incredible collection of art that you can just walk into, spend an hour or 5, depending on your tolerance for museums, and really soak it in. And it's very central. And from there, you can walk through Soho and Piccadilly and all the main areas. And I think it's just going to be an incredible week. I have not checked the weather. I'm assuming it'll be slightly overcast, not too cold, chance of rain, but it'll be lovely. And there'll be a lot of purple around there because we represent.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And I think everyone in the fan base, it's sort of circled something on the back end of the Super Bowl that wanted to do something special. And look, I understand this was not an inexpensive trip. We tried to keep it as inexpensive for our friends as we could and offering it the way we did. We're staying in a fine hotel. We're having a great party. People are going to be able to get around on the tube and see and do so many things while they're over there. But, first order of business is winning, and it certainly is nice going over for a 2-0 team, right? I mean, that would feel different than if Flacco didn't get on the field and somehow we're 0-2 and, we're going over there with a bad team. Plenty of teams have done that. I mean, hell, half the times I see teams playing over there at 9:30 in the morning, I'm thinking, well, there's two bad teams playing over there. I don't know what the prescription here was other than the Ravens hadn't been, and the Jaguars go every year. So we figured at some point we'd be on the docket to do the game. I thought it might have been last year, but it turns out to be this year. And, I guess the timing of it from a football perspective, it's kind of cool. Now, I'll tell you this, less people are going to wind up going to Nashville and Green Bay and Oakland and everywhere else later in the year because this trip was literally circled. I mean, it's the most special trip you can go on in the league, and we haven't played in your hometown out in L.A. yet. We'll have a couple opportunities to do that, but once you've been everywhere in the league to some degree, there's only they move a franchise every now and again, and we'll have Vegas down the line, right, Dave? But
exactly.
but this London thing is something that if you do travel, this was one of those ones that you've been counting on for a number of years. It's nice to have good vibes going over there about it, right?
Yeah, look, London and Green Bay were the two trips I circled, and I'll probably end up going to 6 or 7 games this year anyway, but those are the two I cared about the most. Pretty excited about it, and I think the London thing is just so special because we don't know when we're going back. So this may be it for us or maybe it for a decade. You never know. And given the security issues and things like that, I'm sure the NFL will constantly be reassessing things, but God willing, everything goes smoothly. They always seem to. And I think it's going to be a great experience over there. In the same way, I don't know, Nestor, if you've been to the Olympics, like London knows how to put on events, and it's such an easy city to get around with the tube that I think it's going to be a very hospitable, fun weekend in London.
He is David Katz. He is Katzman. Do out on Twitter as well as at the post game and the founder there. Give the Jim Brown story because that got that got involvement right away. I saw it on my timeline, and what do they say? That one blew up, right?
It did. It quote unquote went viral, as the kids like to say. So I was sitting at the Pump Brothers Foundation event. They do this incredible charity event every year. They get tons of big names. And there is Jim Brown, the legend, walking down the red carpet. And I cannot tell you how many other outlets were letting this man pass. And the few that did interview him were asking, what's your connection to the Pumps and why are you here and what brings you to the event and why do you care so much about cancer research, et cetera. And no one asked him the obvious question, which is sitting on my mind. Here is a legend of football who also was known for being an activist. And I was really curious about whether he believes the NFL is a very different place today, more accepting, less accepting of activism, and to get the legend who lived and, talked the talk and walked the walk to talk about that subject. I asked him, and just an open-ended question, got to ask you about the Colin Kaepernick situation. What is your take? And I expected him, candidly, to be a little more supportive of Colin and a little more supportive, perhaps, of the means in which Colin is getting his message across. And it looked as though he really wanted to talk about this subject because he went on a 2.5-minute rant, very eloquent, very well stated.
Yeah, I've had Jim Brown on the show many times. I've sat next to him many times, and I mean, quite frankly, you never know what he's going to say.
That's right.
He's going to say whatever's on his mind at that time, and I respect that immensely. Quite frankly, I don't agree with everything, but he wouldn't agree with everything with me either. But you never usually have a problem getting. I always say that about Steve Bisciotti. He's so honest, he's almost dangerous, Like the U2 song, you're dangerous because you're honest, right?
Right.
Most people aren't that honest, quite frankly, right?
That's right. And that's what's so refreshing. He basically said that you have to make a decision and know that if you're going to be an activist, that comes with a lot of baggage, that comes with a lot of things. He's made that decision. It's clearly going to affect his football career. But he went on to say that as an American first, there are other ways to get your message across, and that he would never desecrate the American flag and never desecrate the national anthem. That those things are too important to him, and he's too proud to be an American in order to do it. And he felt like there were other ways to get your message across. So regardless of whether you agree or disagree with his perspective, it was interesting to get, and always fascinating in this media business. You never can predict what's gonna blow up, and in that case, leading off Sports Center and having it getting a lot of links from right-wing media sites that I never expected to get linked to. all kinds of things. It was an interesting thing. The only thing we didn't get out of that article was we did tweet it at Donald Trump thinking there's a 50-50 chance this guy, despite all the stuff he's got going on, would retweet our story. He ended up not retweeting it. But other than that, it was great to get the word out and to at least get more conversation about what Colin is doing and trying to do and what a legend like Jim Brown thinks of it.
Katzmandu is the way to find him out on Twitter. He is a Baltimorean hiding out in Los Angeles in the hills out there somewhere. He'll be in London this week as well with the Ravens, and he is a very unabashed Ravens fan as well as a Pikesville native running around with our team here. So how about this defense taking the ball away? You know, I was with the Super Bowl 35 group over the weekend, and, you know, they were known for the defense and all that stuff, but, you know, this little group's making a name for itself, especially with the picks here early on. Blake Bortles, beware, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, I think these guys are probably salivating at the thought of meeting Blake Bortles next week and showing England what it's like to actually get some turnovers. It should be interesting. Look, the defense is, I think, exactly what we hoped they would be. You know, my stats could be wrong, but I thought the only two Ravens teams that would started off the season with a shutout were 2001 and 2006, which statistically were our best defenses. It's great to see this team following in those footsteps, and I think it's 10 turnovers in the first two games. That's an incredible start. Weddle's been talking about wanting to get to that plus 28 turnover margin, and we are well on our way. If the offense can protect the ball and keep the defense fresh, you got a Terrell Suggs that, God willing, stays healthy. He looks completely rejuvenated. This team is dangerous at all levels, and even Marlon Humphrey, who's not seeing a tremendous number of snaps, when he gets in there, he's very active. He's all along the ball, and I'll be the first to admit that I thought there were a lot of other players we could have taken at that position over Humphrey, given the fact that we had made some off-season moves for our secondary. But he seems to be incredibly active and looks like a guy who's going to be a contributor for many, many years to come. Ladarius Webb getting in on the action. I just love what this team is doing. I feel like we can get a little more pass rush going, and you're going to start hearing Judon's name a little more, I think, as the season rolls on.
As well as Bowser, who we saw a little bit of on Sunday.
That was a great interception. It's nice to see him get in the mix. So I think we're going to see a nice rotation, new guys getting in. Tim Williams got in the mix today, so that was great. This defense is exciting, and I think it's something that Ravens fans are used to seeing, a defense that can carry a team. We know that the defense for us has won us the championships. And this nasty streak that we seem to have at all three levels of the defense is refreshing to see again. And when we start playing some really good teams, and I don't know that we've played any good teams yet, when we start playing some good teams, we're going to see if when it comes down to that last stand that we always need, that we haven't been getting the last few years, can this team step up and get the play they need? So far, so good. I'm excited.
You a mushy peas guy, Katz, or no? I'm a big fish and chips, but I got to have my mushy peas with my fish and chips.
I'm not a huge mushy peas guy.
Okay.
I'll do it just for the sake of being over there and do it, and I'll be probably getting a late night kebab. Not going to lie,
right?
It'll be one or two of those.
You're going to get some tikka masala over there too, some butter chicken, all that stuff, right?
100% going Indian. Got to do it. The food. When I went over there, the food was absolutely dreadful many, many years ago. It was a pub culture. You could not get a decent meal. And now it is one of the great food cities in the country. I would say in the world, if you have a chance to go to Harrods, check out the food court at Harrods. If you happen to be walking through Knightsbridge and you want to see food decadence, and if you want to fill up your Instagram with some food porn, go through Harrods food court. Check it out. It's extraordinary.
See, that's why I have guys like you on. I mean, I brought Thomas Dolby on earlier this week to give a few insights, including, here was his tip. This is a great tip. He said, if any of your people are jet lagged at 3 in the morning, get in a cab and go see London because there's no one on the street. You'll be able to see the whole city in a cab. So,
awesome.
From a rock star who is jet lagged, then a lot of our people are going to suffer from that, as well as pub crawl lag and various other maladies over there, as well as getting lost, I'm sure, as well, and not looking right before looking left when you're crossing the street. Weird stuff going on over there. Katz, always a pleasure, man. I do hope we bend an elbow with a pint, and I won't force you to eat the mushy peas. I'll eat yours, though. So bring those along. We'll get some fish and chips and bang bangers and mash and all that other crazy stuff, and try to have some fun while we're over there, right? And then come home 3-0, right?
It's a business trip. We'll have some fun, but we got to get the win because I'll be seeing you probably at the pregame tailgate the next Sunday for the Steeler game.
From one side of the ocean to the other side of the ocean, from Los Angeles to London, he is David Katz. Katzmandu, the way to find him out on Twitter as well as at thepostgame.com. You can find me out on the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world. If you are headed to London, we have a party on Saturday from 11 until 2:52. We're going to march from our pub, the Fox at XL, 2 blocks to the Emirates Air cable car. It's a gondola ride over the River Thames to the O2 Arena. We hope you join us on Saturday. Nasty at WNST.net finds me. Our morning newspaper ships to your email inbox at 7 a.m. each and every morning. That's all brought to you by Planet Fitness and PlanetFitness.com, where it's still $10 a month to get in the best shape of your life. Now, Dennis is going to be here Thursday, driving you home 3 to 5. Coons Ford sponsors our WNST text service for any breaking news, and sometimes it's awful news on something like Marshall Yonda, and, that sucks when that happens, but injury reports, breaking news, the WNST Tech Service, all brought to you by Coons Ford Security Boulevard. Of course, Dennis is here with the SSV on WNST. That's Thursday from 3 until 5. Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, streaming live all over the world, including in London this week with you. We are WNST.net AM 1570 and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.